Hola my chiquitas, and welcome to my pregnancy and birth vlog. Feels like a bit of a gap, I guess, between the actual pregnancy and sharing this with you, but I think because the pregnancy was really difficult and it was filled with quite a lot of anxiety and stress and some loss, I just wasn't ready to share yet. When I thought back, there was still a lot of emotions that I hadn't processed yet, and I just really wanted to keep the time with me and my husband and our baby Bella as something just for us. So I want to just preface this by saying that not everyone who has type 1 diabetes is going to have such a difficult pregnancy journey, but I guess some of the reasons why we had such a difficult time was because not only did I have type 1 diabetes, but I have other autoimmune and chronic illnesses that compounded with that. I'm definitely not suggesting that type 1 diabetes is easy to manage even on a regular day, let alone during pregnancy. It's not, but it didn't cause everything that happened during pregnancy. So in total during pregnancy, I had 46 appointments, and that's not even including inpatient time in hospital. That's just appointments that I went in for and I saw someone. So I went in and I saw the midwife for a consult, or the urology team, or the endocrinologist. That's not including all the times that they checked me into hospital and they said, no, you'll be staying for observation. I can't fully remember the number of days I spent in hospital, but it was ridiculous. The number of days I'd been in hospital before I'd even had our baby was like 40 or more, plus the 46 appointments we had as well. We were in hospital every second day. So starting with conception, we were incredibly lucky. And of course the doggies knew we were pregnant before we did. I'd previously been told that it would be difficult to fall pregnant with everything going on in my body, and that might not even be on the cards for us. As it happened, we actually fell pregnant really early. Before we had babies, I wanted to be financially stable, so I wanted to have our house. We both wanted to be married, and we just wanted to be in a really good place. As it happened, I actually ended up being pregnant on our wedding day, which is a bit of a catch-22 there. In the beginning of pregnancy, in the very first couple of weeks, I was putting on so much weight, and I remember just being so panicked that on my wedding day it was so hard to get the zipper up, and I was thinking, oh my god, I'm gonna have to wear sweatpants to my wedding, like what is going on? And then obviously so excited to have a toast of champagne at my wedding, and I didn't get to do that. But if I had to choose again between big wedding celebration or having our beautiful baby Bella, it would be Bella any day of the week.
Can't get happy because I can't fit in the dress.
Right from the beginning of pregnancy and I guess post-conception, we knew it was going to be a difficult journey. We didn't know how difficult it was going to be, and I think that was a bit of a rude shock to both my husband and myself. So we had a lot of teams on board. We had my endocrinology team, which manages the diabetes. We had the nephrologist and like the registrars looking at my kidneys. We had ophthalmologists on board. At one stage I had a urologist on board. We had the midwives. We had the diabetic midwives. We had the obs med team, and then we had the obstetric medicine team, which were different. I didn't know they were different. I remember like calling them being like, I've got 2 appointments booked for the same person. And they were like, no, different people. You need to attend both of those. I didn't do shared care with the GP and the hospital, which is normal practice because it was such a complex pregnancy. I saw the GP only in the very beginning until maybe 4 weeks pregnant, and then it was all taken over by the hospital and those specialist teams. The very first thing that happened during pregnancy was that my blood pressure was elevated, and that was from the very beginning. That was a couple of weeks pregnant. They were worried that that was a sign that I was going to develop preeclampsia, which lo and behold, we definitely did. From the very beginning, I had a week stay in hospital, and they started me on aspirin, calcium, monitoring, and no blood pressure tablets in the beginning. It was just lots of checking. I had my own cuff at home, and a couple of times a day I'd do the cuff. By the end of pregnancy, so the day that I had Bella, I was on 18 blood pressure tablets a day. 18! Pregnancy update of the day.
It is Tuesday. I am 9 weeks pregnant, and today it's just been an absolute comedy of errors. Saffron was getting spayed today. Had to take her to the vet. They called me at 1:20 and the vet was like, okay, so if you can come pick her up at 1:30. I was like, it's like at least a 25-minute walk from our house to the vet's. And yeah, I was gonna take my time as well because I'm not feeling great. So I pick her up and I'm walking home and I'm carrying her. And let's not forget I'm carrying the twins. I was not feeling good and the heat was bad and I had to stop and throw up on someone's front yard. So if you live on Creek Street and someone vomited on your lawn on Tuesday, I am sorry. So now I've got low blood sugar and I've called my parents and I'm like, come pick me up, please. Please come get me. And my dad, being the superhero he is, he has come and got me and taken me home. And pregnancy is beautiful. I'm just glowing. Live, laugh, love that for me.
In the beginning of pregnancy, we were pregnant with twins. So the next thing that popped up was that my uterus faces the wrong way. Apparently it's pretty common and it's not always an issue, but mine is apparently quite angled the wrong way, and I was having multiple pregnancies, so I had two placentas, two babies pushing on my uterus, which was very backwards. Because of that, I couldn't go to the toilet for number ones. First time it happened before we went into emergency, I was sitting on the toilet and my husband's like got rain music going in the background and he's like there making these like pss, pss, pss noises and he's like, just go. And I'm in so much pain. I'm trying, I can't. And so we went into the hospital and they put a catheter in and they drained 2 liters. 2 liters. And they said, oh, okay, like hopefully that was just like a once off type thing. We went home. Came back the very next day. I was like, look, last night you had to do this. I'm here again because since I came in last night, I haven't peed over the last 8 hours. I really need to go again. And they said, okay, all right, so this is obviously going to be an issue. So they popped a permanent catheter in and they sent me home and they hooked me up with the urology team. And that was really upsetting because I think for the first time during pregnancy, and it was still so early on, we were still only, I don't know, I want to say 10 weeks pregnant. I already felt so trapped at home because I was too anxious to leave the house with this permanent catheter, and I just felt like, oh, this is going to be an issue. I didn't want to go anywhere. I couldn't really be walking around. It was uncomfortable, and for a lot of pregnancy, I did feel trapped and isolated, whether that was at the hospital, you know, nights by myself, a lot of nights by myself in the hospital, and, you know, days at home by myself. And that was from the beginning of pregnancy, so I definitely struggled with that. But what happened is the urology team taught me how to self-catheterize.
It is April 13th and starting to get a little bit big. The permanent catheter came out yesterday. I'm so happy about that. I still have to use temporary catheters every time I want to go to the toilet because the baby is still sitting directly on the bladder. But I'm hoping that they move up soon and hopefully from here, smooth sailing.
We did lose our second baby. We did lose Bella's twin, and that was really hard because we'd already passed that kind of stage where, you know, you are maybe a bit more prepared for something kind of going wrong, and you know, we'd already kind of pictured our life with 2 little babies, and we'd had, you know, the 2 cots, and we'd purchased, you know, 2 car seats, and
even though it was heartbreaking to lose one of the babies,
We were grateful to celebrate having a healthy baby girl with our family and friends.
We're at 23 weeks pregnant, more than halfway. I'm so excited. I cannot wait. I've just woken up for an afternoon nap. And I just wanted to give you an update on how everything's been going. In regards to morning sickness, it's been strange. It was absolutely horrific up until 16 weeks. Since 16, 17 weeks, I have been eating pretty normally. The only strange thing is I was a vegetarian pre-pregnancy, and since 17 weeks, all I have been eating is steak. There's been a lot of steak. So that's wild. But otherwise, my food intake has been pretty good. In regards to insulin and the diabetes, getting insulin resistant. So in the mornings, I'm now taking 5 units of insulin for every 15 grams of carb, or every 1 serve of carb, I take 5 units. So pre-pregnancy, I was taking 2 units for 1 carb serve. Belly update. What was I saying? Yeah, so insulin resistance is definitely going up, but I do expect it is going to keep going up. So, I guess we'll see.
The next issue that popped up was my eyesight. Because by this stage the preeclampsia is already climbing and I'm probably on, I don't remember, 10 blood pressure tablets a day or something, and still getting these huge high readings.
The pressure in the eyes was, I think it was 55 and 50, and the pressure in the eyes should be between 8 and like 20 as a maximum. And that was even with eye drops, it was up that high.
So they said, we'll be doing emergency surgery today. You're not going home. I stayed in hospital, and what they did is they did a procedure.
They did the surgery on this eye, and they put the tube in under general anaesthetic, cut the eye open, put it in, sewed it back up, put the skin graft over the top.
Hit the other eye with a really powerful laser, one that you have to actually be asleep for. General anaesthetic, a lot of risks. Once again, being in hospital by myself, feeling isolated. And then while I was in hospital, I also tested positive for COVID. So then I was really isolated. They also wanted to check me and the baby, make sure we're safe, which I appreciate, but goodness me, it was a long time in hospital.
And they said, come back in a week and we'll do the other eye. I went back the week after, and they couldn't do the surgery because there was no surgeons available. So they said, come back the week after that. And the week after that, they didn't have the skin graft for it, or they didn't have the surgeon. There was another problem. They said, okay, come back a week after that. And so then I went back a week after that. So it was almost a month later. They're not going to operate on it, and they might not need to operate on it during pregnancy, which is honestly the best news ever. So yeah, I'm so happy about that. When they said that, my husband Frankie picked me up, and we just listened to happy music the whole way home, and we were just smiling the whole way home, and it was just, it was the best news. It really feels like things are starting to look up.
My eyesight got really bad during pregnancy. It is still definitely coming back and recovering. It will never be as good as it was pre-pregnancy, but it's much better than it was. At the end of pregnancy, I couldn't see anything. I was, especially in my right eye, which is the one that they just lasered but didn't put the tube in. People were waving their hands in front of my faces, and you know how if you wear glasses, you'll know people say, oh, how many fingers am I holding up? How many fingers? People were actually doing that, and I was like, oh. As soon as I had Bella though, it was like an actual miracle. The blood pressure came straight down and I could see again. So that was in itself miraculous, but I still actually struggle to read Bella her bedtime storybooks, which is pretty heartbreaking for me. And I do hope that that improves, because story time at the end of the day is one of my favorite memories I have of my own parents, and I really want that to be something that I have with Bella as well. So if not, it's just going to be lots of children's books with really big font.
Today we are at 25 weeks. I've just come home from hospital and had a really nice long shower because it's been a huge morning. We had our first ultrasound and then we saw the doctor from the obstetric medicine team, and then we did the diabetes doctor, so the endocrinologist, and then we did the midwife. Then we had a blood test, then we had another scan, another ultrasound, but not of Isabella. It was of my legs for blood clots, and then another blood test. And now we're finally home. I think it's 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Hey Google, what time is it?
It's 3:36 p.m.
Mostly good news though. 2 biggest concerns at the moment are my blood pressure, which is really high. Last week, I think the highest it got to was 170 over 107. And then the other concern for me is quite literally a huge concern. So little Bella at the moment is not very little. She's measuring in the 97th percentile for weight. So that's huge. But the interesting thing is her size in regards to height is actually not that big. So she's not tall. She's just a lot of chunk. Short, but chunky. Diabetes doctor was saying, just one of those things. She said that she saw people that were, you know, in perfect blood sugar range, 99% of the time, and then the baby still comes out huge. I mean, you can't control it. You can control the blood sugar levels, but that's it. You can't control the hormones and all those other things that also affect baby's growth and development.
There she is. Yeah, so we're at 36 weeks. Sorry, what am I talking about? 26 weeks. We're at 26 weeks. Out of hospital. Woo! I had to stay because my blood pressure was 170 over 110, which is the danger zone.
Danger zone.
Kept in for 4 days while they put me on these additional medications to reduce my blood pressure. So right now I feel like I'm just a zombie because I'm literally on enough blood pressure medication to tranquilize a horse. So I went from a couple of tablets a day to now I'm taking a couple of different things 8 times a day. This update is like the worst update. These updates are getting worse as we get further along. But yeah, so I went in for an iron transfusion and I had to stay because they were thinking they were going to deliver Bella. Thankfully, they didn't. They've just got me heavily sedated, but Bella keeps cooking. I'm a little bit sad though as well. I'm so happy to be home, but look, I lost my earrings. I lost my diamond earrings.
Wait.
My earring's gone!
For my birthday, I had to stay in hospital for observation, so Frankie barbecued me up a tomahawk and brought it in so that we could still have a little celebration.
Getting big now and getting very close now as well. Thankfully this week has all been pretty good news with the appointments. Blood sugars are high, which is to be expected. The endocrinologist isn't worried about it. We're just increasing the insulin more and more and more every week. I just can't get enough insulin at this point in pregnancy, so insulin resistance is definitely a thing. The hardest thing has been during the night. I'm obviously not eating. It's 2 in the morning or something and it just keeps creeping up more and more and more. In regards to preeclampsia, we've started having really high numbers, so they've increased my blood pressure medication and I'm booked in to get a blood transfusion, iron transfusion, so they're going to pump the iron up as much as possible, and then I'm going to start taking EPO injections as well. So the only time I've ever actually even heard of these injections was cyclists. I'd never heard of them actually being used for a purpose, for a legal purpose, but there you go. Pretty much an athlete now on my EPOs. I've got such a great team, so I'm confident that we're going to keep doing well. We're so close to the end. Oh, I can't wait to meet little Bella. I'm so excited. 29-week update. I have type 1 diabetes, kidney failure, hypertension, preeclampsia, high blood pressure, low hemoglobin count, retinopathy, cholestasis, low in like all the vitamins, vitamin D, iron, etc. But the positive is they let me go home from hospital for a few days of at-home bed rest, and we're going to probably have our little baby girl at 30 weeks. So I've got hopefully a few days at home before birth.
Immediately after I filmed my 29-week update, I had high blood pressure again, so we returned to hospital and we didn't leave until after birth. I felt like the video was getting a bit long here, so I've made a part 2. Head to part 2 for delivery and postpartum.